The farmhouse was shaking. The lights were dead. And that thing, that drowned woman in the doorway, was no longer human. Her soaked dress dripped onto the floor. Her broken arm dragged behind her like a twisted branch. And her voice, her voice. "Give me my daughter. It's her turn." Emily screamed. Henry fell to his knees. Jake grabbed the lantern that had somehow lit itself, burning with blue fire, a flame that felt older than the town itself. Lydia, what was left of her, slid across the room without touching the ground, her empty eyes locked on Emily. The mirror behind her began to reform, shards lifting off the floor, pulling together into a smooth, dark surface, and inside it, not their reflection, but a world of water, black, deep, endless. The place Lydia had drowned, the place she wanted to take Emily. Jake shouted, "Stay behind me!" But Lydia's voice drowned him out, wet, bubbling, full of hate and grief twisted together. "You left me there alone. Now I'm taking one of you with me." The lantern shook violently in Jake's hand. The flames surged. The house seemed to inhale. And then, everything exploded into blue light. What happened next? No one in Maple Creek has ever been able to explain. Not the sheriff, not the pastors, not even the old spiritual healer who arrived weeks later. All they know is this: the family curse that killed 8 people was never about death. It was about someone still waiting on the other side. And tonight, we're going to tell you the story from the very beginning. From the first grave, to the last scream, to the moment the dead came home. In the quiet rural town of Maple Creek, Kentucky, a place where farmlands stretch farther than the radio towers can reach, folks say nothing ever truly happens. Summers hum with cicadas. Winters crackle with freezing fog rolling off the river. The most exciting events are usually church bake sales, high school football games, or the rare barn fire that gives the fire department something to do. But in the fall of 2009, something else came to Maple Creek. Something dark. Something patient. Something that would soon claim a life. Then another, and another. It all began with Aunt Martha, 65 years old, widowed, soft-spoken, and known for making the best peach cobbler in the entire county. She lived in an old farmhouse just outside town, surrounded by cornfields and silence. One morning, she didn't come to her front porch to feed the chickens. Neighbor kids found her lying by the kitchen counter, eyes open, unmoving, a bowl of biscuit dough still sitting on the table beside her. The coroner said it plain and simple. Massive stroke. Instant. Her 8 grown children rushed back to Maple Creek from every corner of the Midwest. None of them expected her to go so suddenly, but no one questioned it either. In Maple Creek, death was death. God's timing was God's timing. The funeral was held at St. Luke's Chapel, the small white-painted church with a steeple that had weathered almost 100 years of storms. Family, friends, farmers, old classmates, everyone came. Folks said Aunt Martha looked peaceful in the casket, dressed in her Sunday blue dress. And for a moment, just a brief, passing moment, everything seemed normal again. Life returned to Maple Creek. Her children went home to their towns, to their jobs, to their families. Weeks passed. Nothing stirred. But the quiet didn't last. More than a month after Aunt Martha's funeral, something strange happened. Something that the townsfolk would whisper about for years. It began with Uncle Ray, Martha's 3rd son. 51, strong as a bull, healthy as any working man could be. Ray delivered propane tanks to farms in the region, driving long country roads every day before sunrise. Ray never complained. Ray never slowed down. Ray never got sick. Which is why no one understood what happened next. One chilly morning, he lifted a propane tank like he'd done thousands of times before. But halfway up the customer's front steps, his arms shook. He dropped the tank, stumbled backward, and collapsed. By the time the ambulance arrived, Ray was gone. Just like that. No warning. No pain. No chance. A second funeral in just 6 weeks. People at the chapel whispered this time. Is the family cursed? No, don't say that. 2 deaths happen all the time. Just bad luck. Nothing more. Bad luck. That's all it was. Or so they believed. 2 months passed. Winter winds swept over Maple Creek, rattling old barns and carrying dry leaves across empty fields. That's when the 3rd death struck. Aunt Linda, Aunt Martha's 7th child, lived a town over. A quiet, friendly woman. Had some marital tensions, but nothing serious. Everyone argued from time to time. One night, after a small argument with her husband, Linda locked herself in the bathroom. He thought she needed space. He went to bed. The house stayed silent all night. The next morning, he pushed the door open and found her hanging. The scream that tore through the house sent neighbors running. Police cars. An ambulance. Another funeral announcement. The town couldn't ignore it anymore. 3 adult siblings dying so close together, within months, in different places, under different circumstances. Folks murmured at the grocery store, in the pews at church, around the diners' booths. Something ain't right with that family. Never seen anything like it. God help them. But the worst was still coming. The day the family gathered to pick up Linda's body, Aunt Susan, the second eldest daughter, collapsed onto her sister's lifeless body and sobbed. She'd always been the emotional one, the protective one. No one tried to pry her off. They let her cry, scream, shake, until suddenly, Susan made a choking noise. Her eyes rolled, and she fell forward, dead before she hit the floor. Blood trickled from her mouth. 2 sisters lying side by side, one taken by her own hands, the other by something no doctor could explain. And for the first time, the tiny town of Maple Creek fell silent. The kind of silence that sits heavy in the bones. That day, the family buried 2 daughters together. 2 coffins. 2 graves. One mourning. Even the pastor's voice trembled when he read the scriptures. Even the choir refused to sing. The grief was too thick, too real, too impossible. Yet despite everything, the remaining siblings tried to stay strong. They told themselves, it's coincidence. It's heartbreak. It's fate. Only one person, Grandma Helen, Aunt Martha's older sister, felt a cold knot forming in her chest. She whispered to your father, to your uncles, to anyone who would listen. Something is pulling them. One by one, they're being taken. But no one believed her. Not yet. 3 months later, another phone call came. Late at night, rain hammering the roof. Your family gathered around the living room when the news broke. Aunt Becky, the youngest, strong and healthy and living all the way in Seattle, collapsed on set during a wedding shoot. Gone before paramedics arrived. 8 siblings. 4 already dead. But Maple Creek hadn't seen anything yet. Because something old, something hungry, had only just begun. By the time Aunt Becky's body was flown back from Seattle, Maple Creek had already begun to change. Folks no longer waved as cheerfully on the roads. Neighbors shut their doors earlier. Church bells sounded heavier somehow, like even metal felt the weight of what was happening. 4 siblings gone. 4 funerals. 1 family drowning in grief. The surviving children tried to keep life moving, working their jobs, tending to their farms, raising their families. But every time a phone rang late at night, or a knock echoed on the door, every heart in the family froze. Everyone wondered the same thing but never spoke it aloud. Who's next? That answer came quicker than anyone expected. Just a month after Becky's burial, on a humid afternoon at the Maple Creek Farmers Market, Uncle Tom, Martha's 4th son, a quiet, hard-working man, stood in line to buy fresh produce for dinner. Witnesses said it happened in a blur. A semi-truck, a huge 18-wheeler, lost control on the curve near the market entrance. The driver swore the brakes failed, swore he saw something dart across the road, something black, something tall. The truck barreled through the parking lot. People screamed. Vendors dove behind their tables. Crates smashed. Fruit rolled everywhere. And Tom didn't even have time to turn around. The impact was so sudden that most people didn't realize what they saw at first. The truck didn't just kill him. It crushed him instantly. A 5th funeral. 5 siblings gone. Maple Creek had never seen anything like it. By then, whispers weren't whispers anymore. People spoke openly. At the diner. That family's cursed, I tell ya. Never seen so many deaths so close. At the gas station. It's unnatural. Ain't no coincidence. At church. Lord have mercy on the Chambers family. But the Chambers family, Aunt Martha's children, didn't have time to fear curses. They were too busy burying their dead. Only Grandma Helen stood apart from the rest, watching, listening, sensing something the others refused to see. She'd lived long enough to know the difference between fate and something darker. She told your father one night, her voice trembling, "This is a chain, a death chain, and it won't stop until someone breaks it." Your father tried to laugh it off. He failed. 5 months passed. 5 months of uneasy calm. 5 months of holding breath. 5 months of praying the chain had ended. But evil doesn't stop because humans hope. One freezing February night, Emily, Tom's daughter, pregnant with twins, was rushed into the ER with sudden, unbelievable pain. Doctors moved fast. They tried everything. But in the early hours of the morning, Emily died, and with her, both unborn children. 3 souls at once. A hospital nurse, shaken to her bones, later said something she shouldn't have. "I've seen hard labors, but this one, it felt like she was being pulled away from us, like something wanted her more than we did." 3 more coffins. 3 more losses. And the chain tightened. After Emily's death, even the stubborn, skeptical members of the family began to break. Tears dried into numbness. Sleep became a stranger. Every knock on the door sent shivers down spines. But none suffered more than Grandma Helen. She showed up at every funeral clutching her rosary. She stared too long at the graves. Sometimes she muttered things under her breath. They're not going on their own. Something's calling them. Something's hungry. Most people chalked it up to grief. They were wrong. Then came the night the curse reached your home. It was late, almost midnight, when an argument broke out between your father Mark and your mother. Small, ordinary, the kind of marital tension every couple experiences. But something was different. Something pushed Mark past normal anger into something cold and empty. He stormed out of the house, drove to a hardware store, and bought a bottle of agricultural herbicide. The clerk asked if he needed help selecting a crop sprayer. Mark just smiled strangely and said, "No sprayer, just the bottle." The clerk felt a chill but said nothing. Your father drove to the Maple Creek riverbank, parked under an old willow tree, and sat at the shoreline, bottle in hand, unscrewing the cap slowly. The moon was bright, too bright, lighting the water with a silver glow. And then he felt it. A hand, cold, huge, clamping around his wrist. A voice, deep, whispering, ancient, slid into his ear. "Go, come with me. It's your turn." Your father didn't scream. He couldn't. He said it felt like falling asleep. While standing up, the river pulled him. The darkness pulled him. The chain pulled him. Back at home, Aunt Carol, who lived nearby, felt something was wrong. A sinking feeling. An instinct. She drove out searching for Mark. The moment she reached the riverbank, she saw the silhouette of a man stumbling toward the water. Bottle still in his hand, steps slow and unnatural. She screamed his name. He didn't react. She sprinted across the muddy bank and grabbed him by the shoulders just as he lifted the bottle to his lips. Mark collapsed, body shaking, mouth foaming lightly. But Carol dragged him into her truck and raced to the hospital. Minutes later, he would have died. The doctors saved him. Barely. When Mark woke up hours later, he whispered the words that froze the entire family. "I didn't go there alone. Something was dragging me." He described the black, towering figure behind him, the grip on his wrist, the whisper, "It's your turn." The room fell silent. For the first time, the family believed. Something was hunting the Chambers bloodline. Something tied to Aunt Martha's death. Something old, relentless, impossible to outrun. And it wasn't finished. Not yet. Because 4 months later, just when the family dared to hope the nightmare had passed, Uncle David, the second son, collapsed during a routine company meeting. He fell forward onto the conference table, eyes open, mouth slightly parted, no pulse, dead before the coffee on the table even cooled. 8 deaths, 8 members of the same family. The town no longer talked about bad luck. Now they talked about a curse. And for the first time, the Chambers family admitted the truth. Something unnatural had slithered into their lives. Something that fed not on bodies, but on bloodlines. A chained death spirit. And it wasn't done. Not until someone broke the chain. That was when Grandma Helen, with fear hardening into resolve, said the words the family never expected to hear. "We need help, not from a doctor, not from a priest, but from someone who knows how to fight this." And so she made a call to a man who lived 2 states away. A man whispered about more than spoken of, a spiritual healer. And when he arrived in Maple Creek, the real horror began. By the time Uncle David was laid to rest, Maple Creek had stopped pretending. No one called it coincidence anymore. No one said, "It's just life," or "It's just grief." 8 deaths. Same bloodline. Same year. Something was stalking the Chambers family. Something with patience and purpose. The final straw came at the graveside service, where Grandma Helen, trembling but determined, leaned close to your father and whispered, "Enough. We're not waiting for the next funeral. It's time to fight back." 2 days later, before dawn even touched the cornfields, a dark blue pickup truck rolled into Maple Creek, rust on the fenders, talismans hanging from the mirror, and a license plate from Tennessee. The man who stepped out looked like he'd been carved from old oak. Tall, thin, with a weather-beaten face and eyes too sharp to belong to any ordinary traveler. People in these parts don't trust strangers. But even the old-timers sitting on the porch of Mayfield's General Store didn't say a word when he walked by. They just watched. Quiet. Uneasy. His name was Elias Ward. A spiritual healer. A man folks only called when doctors, pastors, and common sense had all failed. He arrived at your family home just before nightfall. The moment Helen opened the door, he stepped inside as if he already knew the layout. As if he'd been there before. Elias didn't ask for coffee. He didn't ask for details. He simply stood in the center of the living room, closed his eyes, and the entire house temperature dropped. Your mother rubbed her arms. Your father swallowed hard. Even the kitchen lights flickered. After a long silence, Elias finally spoke. "There's a chain attached to this family. A death chain. Strong, old, and fed by fear." He turned slowly, his voice barely more than a whisper. "And something is pulling it." Your uncle asked him the question everyone feared. "What's killing us? Is it a curse?" Elias stared at the ceiling. His fingers twitched. "It's not a curse. It's a hunger. Something latched onto Martha the moment she died." A shiver ran across the room. Elias continued. "She wasn't taken alone. A spirit followed her. A dark one. A collector. We call it a trunqui, a death spirit." He paused, and for the first time, the hardened healer looked unsettled. "And it's not acting alone. Something larger, older, is commanding it." The room fell silent. Only the ticking of the wall clock broke the stillness. "What does it want?" your father whispered. Elias turned his head slowly toward him. "It wants all of you, one by one, until the bloodline ends." Your mother covered her mouth. Aunt Carol made the sign of the cross. But the healer wasn't done. "And when it's finished with the adults." He glanced at you, sitting quietly on the couch. "It will come for the children." The air left the room. Elias finally laid out what had to be done. "I need to speak with the first spirit it took. The one bound to the chain. The one who knows how deep this goes." Grandma Helen stiffened. "You mean Martha?" Elias nodded. "Yes, but she cannot come as herself. The body is gone. Her voice will need a vessel." Then he pointed directly at Helen. "You." Your father protested, but Helen raised a hand. "No. If it's me it needs, it'll be me." And for a moment, a quiet kind of courage settled over the room. Because Helen had survived so much. Widowhood, poverty, the depression, the loss of her family, that giving her body for one final fight seemed almost natural. Almost. The ritual had to be performed in the house where the chain began. Aunt Martha's old farmhouse. No one wanted to go back there. The house had been empty since her death, and neighbors swore they'd seen lights flicker inside at night, heard footsteps on the porch, felt someone watching from the windows. But Elias insisted. Spirits return to the place where the door opened. That's where we must close it. And so, just past midnight, your family drove in a caravan across quiet country roads toward the abandoned farmhouse, its windows dark, paint peeling, porch sagging like it was tired of standing guard. The wind whipped across the cornfields. The moon hid behind clouds. Something about the place felt wrong. Heavy. Occupied. Inside, the house felt colder than the outdoors. Dust floated in the air like ashes. The kitchen smelled faintly of old biscuits, though no one had cooked there in months. Elias wasted no time. He placed a round mirror on Martha's old chair. He lit 3 candles, one white, one black, one red. He drew a circle of salt around Helen, and then, in a low tone, he murmured, "When the Spirit speaks, do not interrupt. Do not touch her. Do not run." He paused, and if something else tries to come through, his voice dropped to a whisper. "Look away." Your father swallowed. Everyone stepped back. Then Elias began to chant, a language older than the town, older than the land, older than the faith most people in Maple Creek believed in. The house groaned. The floorboards shifted. A cold wind circled the room though the windows were shut. Helen's breathing slowed. Her eyes fluttered. Her hands trembled. And then, she gasped. Her head snapped upward. Her eyes, normally soft and brown, turned glassy, unfocused, like she was staring from very far away. When she spoke, the voice wasn't hers. It was Martha's. "Why did you call me here?" The voice rasped. She sounded tired, broken. Your mother burst into tears. Helen's mouth, Martha's voice, moved again. "I wanted to rest, but he wouldn't let me." Elias leaned forward. Who is holding you?" Helen's body shook violently. The lights flickered. Then the voice whispered, "The death spirit, the chain demon. It caught me right when I died. It beat me, bent me, forced me to call my children." Your father staggered backward. Martha continued, voice trembling with agony. "Every time one of them died, I felt their hands. I felt their breath leave, because I was the one pulling them." She sobbed through Helen's throat. "I didn't want to. I swear I didn't want to." Elias steadied his voice. "And the one commanding the spirit? The one controlling the chain?" Silence. Then, Helen's face twisted. Her head turned slowly toward the dark corner of the room, the one everyone had been avoiding. Through clenched teeth, Martha whispered, "He's here." The candles flickered. The mirror vibrated. And from that corner, something moved. Something big. Something shadowed. Something shaped like a man. But wrong. Elias shouted, "Don't look at it." But it was too late. Everyone had already seen it. A massive black silhouette, tall enough to reach the ceiling, with arms too long, and a mouth that stretched wider than any humans could. It took one heavy step forward, then another, then. The cold front rolled across Willow Creek that night, dragging a thin mist behind it like a funeral veil. The farmhouse groaned in the wind. Doors rattled. Old hinges whimpered. And somewhere above the living room ceiling, footsteps continued their patient pacing. No one dared mention what they had all heard the night before, but the fear clung to them, tight as damp wool. Jake, sitting near the fireplace, kept glancing at the staircase like he expected someone, or something, to stroll down any minute. May, exhausted and pale, tried to read a book, but her eyes never stopped darting toward the kitchen doorway. Uncle Henry sat polishing his old lantern, polishing it with hands that shook more than he wanted them to. And upstairs, Emily's room remained locked, the sound of her soft whispering slipping through the crack beneath the door. By 9 p.m., the power flickered again. By 9:01, it died completely. A long breath of darkness filled the house. "Not again," Jake murmured. But it was happening again. The darkness wasn't just absence of light. It felt heavy, almost textured, as though the air itself thickened. The wooden floor under their feet began to cool, the temperature dropping so fast Henry's breath fogged in the beam of his lantern. Something else was in that room with them. A faint scratching rose from the back door. Slow, deliberate, like fingernails dragging across old wood. Everyone froze. "Probably the wind," May whispered, though she didn't sound convinced. But then, knock. A single, hollow thud. Then, knock, knock, knock. Rhythmic, measured, almost polite. Henry stood. "Stay here." Jake grabbed his sleeve. "Don't open it." Henry looked down at the boy, fear trembling in his eyes. "Son, I might not have a choice." The knocking stopped. Silence seeped into the room like water through cracked stone. Then a voice spoke from behind the door, soft, female, barely audible. "Henry, open up. It's me." May's nails dug into her chair. "No, that's impossible." Henry's face drained of color. He knew that voice. He had buried that voice 4 years earlier. Emily's mother. His sister. Lydia. Jake whispered, "She died in a car crash near the old railway bridge." Everyone in town knew the story. Henry took a step toward the door. "Henry, stop," May hissed. But he kept walking, lantern trembling in his grip. He reached the door, placed a hand on the knob. "Lydia." His voice cracked. "Lydia, is that really you?" The lantern flickered. A cold wind, from inside the house, impossibly, brushed past Jake's ankles. Something moved across the floor, unseen but tangible, like fingers dragging along the boards. The voice outside whispered again, almost urgently, "Henry, please, open the door. She needs you. She's waiting." "Who's waiting?" Henry whispered. Silence. Then, with a jagged, broken tone, "Our baby. Bring her to me. Bring Emily." May choked on a gasp. Jake grabbed a fireplace poker and stepped forward just as Henry's hand tightened on the knob. "Henry, she's not real," Jake shouted. Henry didn't even look back. "You don't understand. I never got to say goodbye. I never." A slow, deep creak echoed from upstairs. Footsteps. But not the restless pacing from earlier. These steps were heavier, intentional. moving toward the staircase. Jake turned, poker raised, as the shadow of something tall and unnaturally thin stretched against the upstairs hallway wall. Its movements were slow, almost insect-like, joints bending at angles no human limb should attempt. May covered her mouth. Lord have mercy. Then Emily's door clicked open. Not swung, not pushed. It simply unlocked itself. The footsteps stopped. Silence. A moment later, Emily appeared at the top of the stairs. But it wasn't really her. Her head tilted at an unnatural angle. Her hair hung lifeless, stringy, dripping as though soaked in dirty water. Her eyes. Jake felt his heart seize. Emily's eyes were black, not like pupils, like empty wells. She began to descend the stairs without moving her legs, gliding an inch above each step. Jake stumbled backward, poker slipping from his sweaty hand. Emily, or the thing inside her, spoke with a voice layered and warped. She's here. Let her in. Open the door. Henry spun to the stairs. Emily, baby. Oh God. But the thing tilted its head farther, neck creaking like wet rope. She wants me, Uncle Henry. She's been waiting in the dark. You promised her. You promised you'd find her. Henry's knees buckled. I didn't promise. A sudden bang rattled the front door, so loud the pictures on the wall jumped. Not knocking. Something was trying to break in. Jake grabbed May and pulled her away from the entrance. We have to get out of here right now. But Emily, the entity, floated down the final step and landed silently on the floor. Then, slowly, she turned her head toward the back hallway, toward the mirror near the coat rack. Jake stared. At first, the mirror reflected the room normally. Then it began to ripple, like its surface had turned to water. A shape formed in the reflection. A woman, soaked, mud on her dress, hair matted with leaves, face pale and sunken, lips cracked open. Lydia. Only this Lydia wasn't begging. She was smiling. A stretched, unnatural smile filled with hunger. And Jake noticed something else. The reflection wasn't mimicking the room. Lydia was standing closer in the mirror than she should have been. And every second, she moved nearer. Not stepping, sliding. Emily turned her head sharply toward the mirror and whispered, "She's almost here. Let her take me. Let her take all of us." The mirror surface bulged outward, just slightly, like something pressing from the other side. A long, damp hand emerged. Fingers first, then a wrist, then part of an arm. May screamed. Henry fell backward. Jake grabbed the lantern and hurled it at the mirror. Crash. Flame flared. Glass exploded outward. The emerging hand recoiled with a shriek more felt than heard. Emily collapsed instantly, body limp. Jake grabbed her, shaking. "Emily! Emily! Wake up!" Her eyes fluttered, brown again, terrified. "Jake, don't let her in. She said she wants." A violent crash shook the house. The front door began to splinter. Something was coming through. Something that wasn't Lydia anymore. Jake pushed Emily and May behind him. "Basement. Now, go." Henry scrambled to his feet. Back door. But the back door slammed itself shut. Locked. The windows did the same, each one slamming with a crack like a gunshot. The house was no longer a house. It was a trap, a sealed box, and something dead was inside with them. Jake's voice trembled as he helped Emily stumble toward the basement stairs. Behind them, the front door split open with a screech, and a tall, waterlogged shape stepped inside, dripping, dragging 1 foot, head tilted, eyes hollow. Lydia, but not the Lydia anyone remembered. And the nightmare of Willow Creek had only just begun. The front door of the farmhouse finally gave way with a splitting crack that echoed through every wall. Cold air surged inward like a living thing, swirling around them, extinguishing any leftover warmth from the fire. Jake felt it hit his skin, wet, as though the night itself had fingers. Lydia stepped through the doorway, or rather, what had once been Lydia. Her soaked dress clung to her body in shreds, dripping onto the wooden floorboards. Her hair streamed over her gaunt face like black weeds torn from a riverbed. One of her arms hung at a broken angle, bone showing pale beneath torn flesh. But worst of all, her eyes. They weren't white. They weren't black. They were hollow, like someone had carved out the soul behind them. She moved forward without bending her knees, gliding an inch above the floor, leaving muddy water in her wake. Henry whispered, trembling, "Lydia, that can't be you. That can't be." Her head turned toward him with a grinding twist, like wet branches snapping. Then she spoke. "You left me." The voice was layered, wet, gurgling, as though echoing through water. Henry stumbled backward, clutching his chest. I didn't leave you. I looked for you. I tried to get help." Lydia's broken arm lifted, pointing at him. "You promised you'd come back. You never did." Jake pushed May and Emily toward the basement door. "Go. Get down there. Now." But Emily dug her heels into the floor. No, Jake. If we go down there, we'll be trapped." Her voice cracked with panic. She told me she died in the dark. She wants us down there with her." Jake froze. May's face went pale. Henry collapsed to his knees, clutching his head. "Lydia, I swear, I ran for help. You were pinned. I couldn't move the door. I came back with..." Lydia shrieked. Not a human scream. Not grief. A rageful, drowning howl, like someone screaming underwater just before their last breath. The sound ripped through the house. The walls trembled. Lights, still dead, buzzed faintly as if the electricity itself was afraid to return. Emily clung to Jake's shirt. "Don't let her touch us. She said if she touches us, she'll pull us where she is." Jake swallowed hard. "Then, we don't let her." He grabbed the fireplace poker again, his hands shaking uncontrollably. He didn't think he could hurt her. He didn't know if she could be hurt. But he had to buy them time. Lydia drifted toward Henry. He backed away, slowly at first, then scrambling on hands and feet. "Please, Lydia, please don't." She glided closer, her fingers stretching like long, waterlogged branches. Jake charged forward. "Hey!" He swung the poker, wide, clumsy, but with everything he had. It passed through her as though striking cold mist. The poker flew out of his hands, clattering across the room. Lydia didn't even flinch. Instead, she turned toward him. Slowly, deliberately. "You took her. You hid her from me. Give her back. Give me my baby." Emily whimpered and ducked behind May. Jake stepped backward. "She's not yours anymore. She's not, whatever you are now, she's not going with you. Lydia's mouth stretched, not in a smile, but something like it, too wide, splitting at the corners, revealing black gums. The room dimmed. The shadows deepened, and water, thin at first, began to drip from the ceiling. Emily gasped. She's filling the house. She wants to drown us like she. A massive crack interrupted her. The mirror Jake had shattered earlier began to reform. Shards lifted from the floor like they were being pulled by invisible strings. The glass fused together, growing, smoothing, reshaping until the mirror stood whole again, its surface rippling like a lake. And within the reflection, a world of water, black, endless, suffocating. A place the dead might call home. A place Lydia wanted them to follow. Bring her to me. Bring Emily. Her hand extended toward the girl. Emily screamed, stumbling backward. Jake moved in front of her, arms spread. Stay behind me. Lydia glided forward, and from the hallway closet, something fell with a loud thud. Everyone turned. A lantern, the one Henry kept for storms. But it was glowing, lit, burning with a strange bluish flame that flickered violently, as though reacting to Lydia's presence. Henry whispered, voice trembling with memory. This was hers. Lydia's lantern. She kept it in her car. They found it by the bridge, still lit, the night they pulled her out. The flame pulsed brighter, brighter, brighter still. Jake didn't know why. He didn't know how. But something inside him said, pick it up. Now. He dove for the lantern as Lydia lunged forward, shrieking again. Jake grabbed the handle, the metal scorched hot but bearable, and swung it toward Lydia. Blue fire erupted outward in a sudden burst. Lydia recoiled, her form flickering like a projection made of fog and moonlight. The lantern's flame roared brighter, casting her entire body in its glow. And Jake finally saw her clearly. Not the monster, not the horror, the real Lydia, cold, terrified, pinned beneath twisted metal, reaching for someone who never came back. A woman who had died alone. Her voice changed, soft, broken, human. Henry, why didn't you come back? Henry sobbed. I did, Lydia. But the river rose. The car slipped deeper. The rescuers held me back. I tried. God, I tried. Lydia looked at him. Then at Emily. Then back at the lantern. And her face twisted. Not in anger. In grief. The blue flame flickered again. Her form wavered, dissolving around the edges. Emily stepped forward, voice shaking. Mom, please, you don't have to stay here. Lydia turned her hollow eyes toward the girl. For the first time, they softened. Just a little. Emily, I'm so cold. I want to come home. Tears streamed down Emily's face. You can. But not here. Not like this. You have to let go. Something in Lydia's face cracked. The grief broke through the rage. Her body shook as though fighting itself, fighting whatever darkness had clung to her all these years. Jake lifted the lantern higher. The blue flame reached her chest, and Lydia screamed, but not in pain, in release. Her form burst into drifting mist, swirling like a whirlpool, drawn into the lantern's flame. With one last whisper, half mother, half memory, thank you. She was gone. The flame went out. Silence fell over the house. Emily collapsed into Henry's arms, sobbing. May held both of them, shaking. Jake stood there, lantern still cooling in his hand, barely able to believe what had just happened. The front door hung open. The night was calm again. The house, finally, felt empty in the right way. No presence. No shadows moving on their own. No cold breath down their necks. Nothing waiting in the dark. Henry whispered, "It's over." Jake looked at the lantern. "I hope so," he said. But as he set the lantern on the table, a faint sound echoed from inside it. Not a scream. Not a whisper. A soft cry. A baby's cry. Then silence. The nightmare of Willow Creek may have only just begun.